You did the right thing when no one was watching. You chose the harder path not because it was easier or because anyone rewarded you for it, but because something in you could not do otherwise. You held your integrity in the moments when compromising it would have been so much simpler and so much less costly. You stayed patient when others moved on, stayed honest when dishonesty would have gotten you further faster, stayed faithful to something you believed in, while watching people who did none of those things somehow receive what you had been working toward. And you have wondered, not bitterly necessarily, but honestly, in the quiet places where you let yourself be entirely real, you have wondered whether any of it was being tracked, whether the choices that cost you something were recorded anywhere, whether the universe was paying any attention at all to the specific daily, largely invisible work of being someone who does the right thing even when the right thing produces nothing but the private satisfaction of having done it. You have watched people cut corners and receive rewards. You have watched people compromise their integrity and experience no visible consequence. And you have sat with the particular kind of quiet frustration that only someone who genuinely tries to live rightly can feel, the frustration of wondering if the trying matters. If the universe is the kind of place where integrity is rewarded or merely respected in principle, while life distributes its gifts according to other logics entirely. The answer, and I want you to hear this clearly, and let it land before I explain why the next 48 hours are the specific and practical proof of it. The answer is that the universe noticed. Every single moment of it, every choice that cost you something, every time you chose the longer, harder, more honest path, every moment of staying when leaving was available, of choosing when compromise was easier, of waiting when impatience would have been understandable. It was all recorded, and what is moving into position in the sky right now is the specific cosmic mechanism through which the account is settled. Mars conjunct Saturn is approaching. In 48 hours, these two forces, Mars, the energy of action, drive, and forward movement, and Saturn, the planet of cosmic law, accountability, and the precise settling of what is outstanding, will meet. And when they meet, the universe does its most consequential work. Not its most dramatic work, its most precise work. Most people think of Saturn as a planet of difficulty, of restriction, of consequences, of the cosmic authority that shows up to make sure no one gets away with anything. And Saturn is all of those things, when those things are warranted. But Saturn is not punitive by nature. Saturn is exact. It does not operate from emotion. It does not play favorites or respond to charm or make exceptions for the people whose situations are sympathetic. Saturn operates on principle, on the precise accounting of what was invested and what was earned, of what was promised and what was delivered, of what choices were made when they were costly and what that cost, in integrity, in patience, in the specific currency of the decisions made when nobody was watching, actually entitles the person who paid it to receive. Mars arriving at Saturn's position amplifies the energy available for the settling. Mars provides the force, the momentum, the directional charge that moves what has been sitting still in the account. Mars conjunct Saturn is not just Saturn doing its usual, patient, long-view accounting. It is Saturn with the engine running, with the full force of forward motion behind the settling that has been building toward completion. It is the moment when what has been outstanding, on both sides of the ledger, gets paid. And for you, for the specific person who chose integrity when compromise was available, who waited when impatience was justified, who stayed faithful to something real when the shorter path to something approximate was right there, the account is in your favor, by a significant amount. The scale has been loading for a while, and in 48 hours, it is going to tip. Karma is the most misunderstood principle in the popular spiritual lexicon. Most people understand it as a punishment system. What goes around comes around. Do wrong and receive wrong in return. And that aspect is real. But karma in its fullest, most accurate sense is not a punishment system. It is a precision system. It is the universe's method of ensuring that energy output is eventually matched by energy return, regardless of how long the return takes, regardless of how indirect the path of return appears. It is not emotional. It is mathematical. It does not account for the appearance of a life, only for the actual substance of the choices made inside it. This means that every act of genuine integrity leaves a karmic credit. Every moment of genuine patience, not the performance of patience, but the actual costly, quietly practiced endurance of waiting for the right thing rather than accepting the wrong thing, generates a karmic return that is proportional to the cost of the practicing. Every choice to be honest when dishonesty would have been more convenient, every moment of choosing someone else's well-being over your own immediate advantage, every time you held to a standard that cost you something in the short term, each of those moments created a specific, real, universe-acknowledged obligation. A debt owed to you, a balance in your favor. Saturn does not forget these. This is the specific, literal, astrological meaning of Saturn in its highest function. It is the cosmic accountant. It holds the record, not to eventually punish the people who chose poorly, though it does that too in time, but to eventually pay out the balances that have accumulated in the accounts of the people who chose well when choosing well was hard. The payout is not always immediate. Saturn has a long view. But the payout comes. It always comes. And the 48 hours of Mars conjunct Saturn approaching right now is one of the specific, concentrated, cosmically charged moments when the payout is not eventual. It is imminent. What was recorded in your specific account is worth naming, because the precision of what is coming requires you to understand the precision of what built it. The relationship you stayed in too long, trying, giving more than was being returned, because you believed the other person, and because your word meant something to you. That was recorded. The professional situation where you did more than was required, where you contributed beyond what was recognized or compensated, where you chose to show up fully to something that was not reciprocating your investment at the level you were giving it, that was recorded. The friendships where you showed up in the hard moments, where you held space for someone else's difficulty without that space being held for yours, where you were the one who stayed when the staying was inconvenient, recorded. The times you were passed over for something you had genuinely earned, the times the credit went to someone else, the times you watched a lesser effort receive greater recognition, recorded. The private moments of integrity that nobody saw, the choice not to take what was available to take, the honesty that cost you the easy path, the standard you held in the moments where lowering it would have been completely undetectable. Every single one of those recorded. Saturn holds the entire ledger. And the balance in your account, built from the accumulated weight of all of those moments, is real. It is substantial. It is not a symbolic or spiritual reality waiting to be manifested through your changed mindset or your raised vibration. It is a literal karmic debt owed to you by the universe itself, accumulated across the specific, costly, integrity-driven choices of your actual life. And Mars arriving at Saturn's position in 48 hours is the engine that moves it from the account into the world. What is coming is specific. I want to be clear about this because the language of good things are coming is so overused in spiritual content that it has lost its ability to register as real rather than as encouragement. What is arriving through this Mars conjunct Saturn window is not a general improvement in your emotional climate. It is proportional. It is calibrated to the exact weight of what has been sitting in your account. The universe does not overpay, and it does not underpay. It settles precisely. In practical terms, this means that the area of your life where you have been most patient and most deserving is the area where the settling arrives most visibly. If the area of greatest accumulated credit is in your professional life, the effort unrecognized, the work unrewarded, the contribution undervalued, the settling arrives there. As recognition, as opportunity, as the specific professional movement that the effort you already put in was always building toward, but hasn't yet received. If the greatest accumulation is in your relational life, the care given without being matched, the patience extended without being rewarded, the choosing of someone who did not choose back, the settling arrives there. As the arrival of the connection that is actually proportional to what you are capable of giving, the person whose investment matches your own. If the greatest accumulation is in your sense of purpose, the long period of working towards something that hasn't yet been visible or recognized, the settling arrives as the first clear, tangible evidence that the work has been seen and is beginning to produce. The settling happens in the area where the account is most overdue. Pay attention to which area of your life, in the next 48 hours, begins to show the first evidence of movement after a period of stillness. That movement is not coincidental. It is the scale tipping. The way to receive what is coming requires nothing complicated. It requires only one thing, and the reason I am spending time on it is that this one thing is easy to get wrong in the specific emotional state that waiting with integrity produces. Stay open. Do not receive what is coming through the filter of bitterness about what took so long, or the protective contraction of someone who has been disappointed enough times that the self-protective instinct fires, even when what is arriving is genuinely good. The bitterness is understandable, earned even by the waiting. But bitterness, if it is present in the moment of Saturn's settling, creates the one condition under which the settling cannot fully land. Not because the universe withholds it, because the contracted, bitter, closed-off posture that bitterness produces does not allow the receiving that the settling requires. What is trying to reach you needs a clear channel. It needs you to be genuinely, groundedly, we have done the work open to the arrival of what you have earned. This is not positivity as performance. It is not pretending the wait wasn't hard or that the frustration wasn't real. It is the specific, mature, Saturn-level understanding that the account has been building toward this moment, and that this moment, met with the genuine openness of someone who trusts the precision of what is arriving, is the moment when everything the waiting was for finally becomes real in the most tangible terms available. Stay open. Trust the precision. Let what is owed reach you without the protection that would have made sense at an earlier phase of the waiting, but makes no sense now, in the specific 48 hours when what was owed is finally, exactly arriving. The universe noticed. This is the thing I want to leave you with, and I want you to let it be as large as it actually is rather than as a phrase that slides past, because it is the kind of thing that gets said. The universe noticed every specific moment of integrity, every costly choice, every quiet act of righteousness that produced nothing but the private satisfaction of having been the kind of person who does the right thing when the right thing is available. It noticed the patience that became nearly indistinguishable from defeat. It noticed the staying and the choosing and the standard holding. It recorded all of it with the precise, comprehensive, emotion-free attention of a system that operates on the principle of exact return. And in 48 hours, with Mars providing the engine and Saturn providing the law, the return is arriving. Specifically, proportionally, in the area where the account is most overdue, in the form that the investment you made specifically earns. You are not foolish for having waited. You are not naive for having hoped. You are not invisible to the forces that govern this universe. You are someone whose account has been building toward a settlement that is now, finally, imminent. Stay open. Let it reach you. And when it arrives, in whatever specific, practical, tangible form it takes in your actual life, recognize it for what it is. The universe paying its debt. The scale finally, precisely in your favor. It always notices. It never forgets. And it always pays, eventually, exactly, completely. Your eventually is now.